on, dear listener. Shall we move on? I think it's about time we moved on. I hear you tell me to get on with it, so let's get on with it then. Right. This is interesting. Excuse me. And I have no doubt for some of you it's going to prove a tad controversial. That's okay. We don't mind that. Controversial is no bad thing. I want to introduce my next guest. I saw a video that he put together for YouTube, and I was very interested in it. And I followed him then to Twitter, and I saw that he'd been following our Twitter account. I only noticed that actually in the last couple of days. And I also saw that he had a website called hoaxpolice.wordpress.com, hoaxpolice.wordpress.com. And he challenges the conclusions that have been drawn by the independent or alternative media on child sex abuse and other subjects. His website's under construction at the moment, but I'm very interested in it. Had a chat with him today. I'm glad that he's agreed to come on to the programme, because I think he's going to present a kind of a counter narrative or a different point of view to the one that we have heard often on this programme. That's no bad thing. Hoaxpolice.wordpress.com. Let's welcome to the programme Danny Jones. Danny, good to have you on. How are you?
I'm good, Rich. How you doing? No good.
I'm very well, mate. Thanks for coming on. Hoaxpolice.wordpress.com. I know it's under construction at the moment and you're working on it. Now, you said to me this afternoon, and I was very interested in this, you said that over a number of years you've been very interested in different aspects, different areas of conspiracy research, and you said you were very open-minded to a lot of stuff, and you took a lot of stuff on board, but recently you began to see things in a different light, and you began to see that maybe the wool is being pulled over people's eyes, maybe by some independent content creators. We're not going to bash anybody in particular, and I'm very interested in that, and that's why you made your video about Melanie Shaw, and it's why you've launched hoaxpolice.wordpress.com. Tell me about that journey before we start talking about specific cases.
Yeah, sure. The journey of myself really is from like 15 years ago. I was watching you and David Icke and Alex Jones and everyone else on the alternative media, sort of telling people what the real media wouldn't tell you. Well, so I was led to believe that way anyway. And there's a few things, you know, that you and David Icke and the likes of Alex Jones and people like that, some of the stuff they said was, you know, quite right and true. And some of the stuff that was getting put out there was, to me, was like, that can't be true. I've got to research this and have a look into this. So I went from there, really, over the last 15 years. I remember you and Sonia Colton and David Icke and that, all the TPV, the People's Voice, I think it was called, and I watched all that, even subscribed to it. You know, so I was in the following quite big, to be honest. You know, I followed the flat Earth, I followed the moon landings and all that sort of stuff, all being hoaxes, and I believed most of it, to be fair. I did believe most of it. But I started, the first thing what made me change my mind about certain points was Brian Harvey. Brian Harvey brought out a video about 2 months ago, 3 months ago about, and that's what turned, I thought, hang on, that's blatant in my face, lies. You know, I believed Bill Maloney. I thought he was doing a really good job. So it made me question things, and that's when I started questioning things. And then Melanie Shaw was one that I did question straight away, because I've never trusted the UK column, never ever, to be honest. Some of the stuff they put out there, I'm thinking, that's not right. So that was the first one I sort of challenged. I thought, well, let's have a look into Melanie Shaw properly. Let's really have a deep delve in Google, if you like, and phone some people up and get some information off people.
Yeah, there's been first of all, before we go any further, I want to say, not that it'll be believed anyway, but it doesn't matter. This is not about bashing any individual or any particular organisation. Now, the organisation that Danny has mentioned, I've criticised some of their output in the past when it's been blatantly false. And they were extended an invitation to come on here, and they declined it. In fact, they used to complain to David Icke about the fact that I was criticising them, but they wouldn't come on and take me on face to face. But it's not about them, and I don't want it to be about them. But at the same time, I'm not going to censor you either. I'm very interested in this, what you're going to talk about now, because I interviewed Melanie Shaw 2.5, 3 years ago, but I also spoke to her quite often off air, and something has within independent media circles, something has been given the status of fact, and it isn't a fact. And the fact that has been claimed is that Melanie, who is a lady who's had some very, very dreadful things happen to her, and who I think is an innocent and a pretty nice woman, but who's going through a pretty bad time. A fact has been declared, and the fact that has been declared is that Melanie is being kept in prison, basically as a political prisoner, because if she isn't, she's going to name some very big names. That is not true, is it?
No, not at all. That's not what I found out to be true anyway. That's not what I found out at all.
Go ahead.
Bottom line, let's put things straight first, Richie. Let's put things straight. Melanie Shaw was abused as a child. That's definite, no arguments there whatsoever. She's a victim. And she was abused again, I believe, in the care homes, and she was a victim again there. I've got no evidence to show me why that's not true, so I believe all that completely from Melanie Shaw's voice. But what I don't believe is that she's in prison for a political prisoner or because she's going to whistleblow or something like that. The video I did shows you why she's in prison. I won't go into why, because obviously it's a family court and there's kids involved and stuff. But if you watch the video, you'll see why she's actually in prison. What concerns me was the judge actually said to her, get yourself sorted out. Don't go on these internet shows and God knows what else. And what did she do the first 5 minutes? Actually, the said UKCOLUMN went and picked her up and actually took her straight back to the studio to interview her as soon as she come out of the court. I'm like, that's not on. That's just frankly not on. So in my eyes, she's been abused again. Abused again by the said UKCOLUMN. I won't mention names involved in them. We all know who runs them sort of things.
You think they took advantage of her? You think that basically she was exploited, right? Okay.
Yeah, to me, they took advantage of her and made her go out there and start protesting and getting a megaphone out and basically causing attention to herself. There's no need for it. There was no need for attention. She could have got on with her life. She had a boyfriend. She's got kids. She could have got on with her life quite happily. But to me, she's been infiltrated and used and abused again. So now she's another victim again from the alternative media, or from the what I call the hoax truth, as I call them.
What if Danny? What if Melanie did know that powerful men with connections to the establishment were hanging around Beechwood, that care home, that horrible place where she and others were abused? What if she did have names? Can we discount that possibility?
We'll never know now, though, will we? Because they've got involved and sort of ridiculed her and made her basically put mud in the water, haven't they? So whatever abuse has happened now, it's going to be really hard to trust what comes out of Melanie's or the people that backs their mouth, because they've lied so far. So they're going to, in my eyes, why would all of a sudden they start telling the truth? I don't know.
I regretted.
They just lied and lied.
Yeah, I regretted bringing her on because I was given assurances about Melanie's state of mind, and I was reluctant to kind of bring her on because she'd been on with others, including the people we've mentioned, and I was given assurances of that. And she came on, and it was obvious to me. I spent a lot of time speaking to victims of clerical sexual abuse in Ireland, and many of those victims, Danny, they didn't get any help, and they had emotional problems because they weren't helped and they weren't looked after. And it was apparent to me when Melanie was speaking with me that while I believed that what she was telling me about what happened to her was absolutely right, I felt a bit dubious about some of the claims, about her being targeted by the police and stuff like that, because I felt that she was in a bad place emotionally. And when I spoke to her privately, I did say to her, that maybe you need to be a bit careful about where you go and what you say. Maybe you need to take care of yourself and take care of your health. I'm completely willing to accept that, but I like you, do not believe that Melanie is being kept in prison against her will because she might spill the beans. I have seen enough evidence, concrete evidence, that Melanie is there because of things that she has done and things in ways that she's behaved. And I'm going to say it. Some of the people who have exploited her, they know damn well why Melanie is in prison. Yeah,
they know the truth. And that's the
truth.
That's the sickening part about it, which is they know the truth before I knew the truth. And they still interviewed her, they still pushed it, and it's still even today. I think it was only last week, I think UKCOLUMN put out Melanie Shaw's still getting tortured and she's in solitary and all this sort of stuff. If you look at the prison she's in, they're cottage-based prisons. It's not like a normal prison. It's not even classified. It's not even ABC classified. It's an all-women's prison. I'm not saying it's a cushy number. I'm not saying that at all. All prisons are not going to be cushy. But out of all the prisons, she's not in a bad prison at all. She's in more of I wouldn't say a mental institute, but she's more of where they're going to get help, you know, and not so much just put in solitary. And it makes me laugh when they say she's been ridiculed and she's put in solitary and it's no good for her. I'm like, well, what solitary is she in? Is she in a cottage, maybe? I don't see where the solitary is there.
You know, and I'm sure you've had it already. I mean, you've put the website up, and the website's being built, and you're going to be taking on a number of different things said by people over the years, and that's your absolute right. You know that this is so contentious, and it's so emotional for people, that people are going to say, well, you're just a lousy bastard now, you're just a shill, and these guys are brilliant, they're doing great things, exposing all this stuff, and you're trying to shut them down, and you're trying to, you're trying to, this is what happens. Yeah, go ahead.
I've had that thrown at me many a times, Richie, many a times. I'm a shill, paid agent, pedo protector, you name it, I've had it all chucked at me. And bottom line, I'm just a normal guy, just trying to get to the truth. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show people what I wish someone had shown me 10 years ago. That's what I'm trying to do.
There are two irrefutable facts. Number one, Melanie's trials were not conducted in secret. I mean, this is a monstrous lie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's outrageous. I mean, I was able to figure that out very quickly myself. I don't have producers. I don't have researchers. That is an absolutely untenable thing to say. Her hearings were not conducted in secret, because we've spoken to people. I've spoken to people who were there. Mickey Summers was there. We know Mickey Summers is there. Other people were there. They were there, and there was nothing secret about it. And these things were reported on. And a second irrefutable fact, I believe, is that she's not being kept indoors and behind bars because of who she would name. And I'll tell you why I don't believe that. Because any number of people have gone public and have named high-profile politicians who are still alive. It's, you know, it happens a lot online.
Oh, it happens, yeah, it definitely happens. It definitely goes on. I'm not trying to say this doesn't happen. It does happen. It happens all over.
By the way, I wasn't saying that you were denying that. No, the point I'm making is other people have been very, very vocal in naming people, and they haven't been put in prison. What I'm saying is, I don't think the establishment gives a rat's arse, excuse my language, about what Melanie, God love her, what she might say or might not say. They don't care, because who's going to investigate it? If it's true, who's going to investigate it? I would argue nobody. So it doesn't matter. So it's just a monstrous lie. And
well, the bad thing about the establishment, Richie, is they let her come out of court after what she'd done, okay? And they didn't give her no support at all. None whatsoever. I don't see the state or the government or the services that are supposed to be involved in helping mentally ill people. They didn't get involved at all with her, in my eyes, not at all, one bit. And they just let her run free, and of course that's where likes of UKCOLUMN or whoever jumped on them all over and abused her again, basically.
Faisal tweets, and some of our listeners will agree with him. They will say, what right does any judge have to order somebody like Melanie not to talk to any media, alternative or otherwise? That's a good point. People will say, well, the magistrate who was dealing with Melanie, it's a bit sinister if he's telling Melanie not to speak to anybody.
Yeah, it's not sinister. He was doing it for her own good. He was doing it for her own good. He wasn't doing it for his good or the government's good or anything like that. He was trying to do it for her own good. Your own. Listen, your head's not right. Do not start going out and start causing conspiracies and even more stuff. Get your head sorted out first. Get off your drug addiction that you've got and sort yourself out. That's all he said to her. And then, but that never happened. You know, as soon as the court was finished, she was whisked away straight to a studio audience with people sat there interviewing it, and it's like that's just the wrong thing to do. I mean, there's a part 2 to my video. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, I have.
There's a part 2, which shows that I'm not trying to ridicule at all Melanie. In fact, I feel sorry for Melanie. If I'd have known, I'd help her. If I knew how to help her, I would help her myself. But I don't know how to help her. As far as I know, the government should have systems in place to help her already. They shouldn't be relying on the people like UKCOLUMN and stuff like that to help her at all. So it's pretty sickening to think when you do find out the truth, and the truth is, yes, she was definitely abused, yes, she's had problems, yes, she's mentally ill, and where's the help? Nowhere. And that's pretty saddening to understand that the UK government or the UK state has not helped her in one bit, in my eyes.
Because what we've seen historically is that victims of these crimes, which are unimaginable, when they're not helped, of course they develop addiction issues, come into play, and sadly violence. And when I was speaking with Mickey Summers, it came up. I don't know why it came up, but I said, look, my experience, again, as a professional producer, meeting people like that over the years, is that when they're not helped, violence, sadly, is something that does manifest in people who have no other outlet.
Isn't it? It's frustration.
Frustration. And Melanie's not always been. She's been a naughty girl at times. I know this.
Yes.
And I found this out over a year ago, and I left well enough alone at the time. I don't make it a habit to, be criticising other organisations or other content creators. But with this particular organisation, they're not professionals. It's amateur.
No.
It's amateur night pretty much. I don't watch it, but what I do see of it, it's dreadful. And it's exploitation. It really is. And
it is.
I'm convinced. Yeah, I'm convinced they knew that her court appearances were not secret. And I'm absolutely convinced that they know that she's not being kept there lest she blow the whistle on any particular name of any person who might be alive. I just don't, and I believe they know that. It's pretty shameful. There's no recovering from it. As a presenter, there's no recovering from it.
It's shameful for her to be protested in prison, set on fire to her bed or whatever it is she did. On several occasions she did it, and it was a protest, as she said it was protest. And I'm thinking, well, who's told you to protest? Someone's actually put that in your head to go and do that. You wouldn't think of that yourself. You're not right in the head to think of that sort of stuff. Someone's actually told you to go and protest and cause a ruffle. And it's like, well, I know who's told you. I'm just guessing. It's got to be them, right? It's got to be the UK column has told you to go and protest. And,
now we have no
give us more.
We have no evidence of that. What if?
No, none whatsoever.
We've no. To be fair to them, they're not here, and they won't be. I've extended them opportunities to come on with me before to talk about this.
Exactly the same, Richie. I've invited him in on Sunday nights. Come and chat. I've invited Brian. I've invited other people on UK column. Come and chat with us. We've got questions. Please answer. They don't want to know. They just don't.
Well,
want to know.
What you find with the truth or industrial complex in general is these guys put information in the public domain, and they've got very thin skins. If you put information in the public domain, you've got to accept if it's criticised and if it's critiqued. These guys tend to retreat and say, look, we're important, we're being attacked, which is laughable and ludicrous. That's what they do. That's the default position. Nobody's attacking you personally. I don't know any of these people personally.
No,
but I know
I don't know them personally either.
But I know that Melanie is not in prison to protect the evil paedophiles which do exist, by the way. But
of course they're there somewhere.
That's right. But she's not been locked up to protect that. Now, to be fair to UK column, in their absence, what if Melanie, and I understand this might very well be true, is writing to these people from prison and telling them that she's being abused, that she's being, slapped around, that she's being threatened. Aren't they well within their rights to report that, if that's what she is telling them from prison?
Yes and no. It depends how good a journalism they are. I doubt a journalist who's done 3 or 4 years at university to be a journalist that will even report that without going and find out the facts on the other side. To see, if phoned the prison, for example, and asked the question, they'd get evidence and not just take her story, not just take her letter. They'd go and find out the evidence and find out to see if they can back up what she's claiming. That's what a proper journalist would do.
Yeah, of course, but there is a but here. Who's to say they didn't? And if prison officers were treating Melanie Shaw or any other prisoner badly, if they were contacted by any news organisation, regardless of its standing, they're not going to come clean, are they, Danny? They're not going to say, well, yeah, we are.
No, that's right. No, they're not going to come clean. But even let's take a hypothetical question. She did write a letter, and it's actually true. Let's say it is true for this example, then, that she is getting tortured and bullied in prison, and UK column has reported on it. What the facts there is, UK column could be right at that time, okay? But because they've lied about so much that I've found out about, how can I believe them? It's like if a guy tells you 10 lies, are you going to believe the 11th thing he tells you? You're not. You're going to presume that 11th thing is a lie as well.
Well, the monstrous lie is to say she's locked up for nothing. It's so easy to debunk that. It's outrageous that any pretend Mickey Mouse amateur, whatever you want to call it, I don't care what level it's at. If you want to call yourself a news organisation and then you report something like that and it's demonstrably, provably wrong, you've got nowhere to go ever. You're finished forever. It's the same with the whole thing about secret courts. It's just a lie. It's an outrageous.
Yeah, it's most of it's family court. It's not secret.
It's
court.
Not secret court at all. Yeah. It's dreadful.
But, as you say, Melanie Shaw wasn't a secret court. There was 3 or 4 people who actually went to that court in public and watched it. So it's not secret.
And of course, if Melanie does have information about figures or people connected to the establishment, it's going to be very difficult.
It is
going
really
forward to find out.
Now. Yep.
Now I want to talk to you about something. First of all, Danny, I want to give you a shout out again. I'm speaking with Danny Jones. I saw a video put together by Danny on YouTube, and it touched a nerve with me because, you know, I've been critical of this organisation in the past over this particular story, not just this story. What they've done in the past, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag here a little bit. What the UK column has done in the past is they've gone crying to David Icke, and I've got the emails to prove it. They emailed David Icke asking David to tell me to stop, that I was harming their reputation because I was being critical of the way they approached the Hampstead Heath child abuse story. Yeah. I was very critical of their handling of that, which was absolutely laughable. The way they handled that, right? Okay.
15, 20 people I know. They're all annoyed at UKCOLUMN for that.
I'm a very nice guy. I know people don't think I am. A lot of people think I'm a right bastard. I might very well be, but on air I'm not. And I'm wide open to somebody coming on here and having a proper go at me. I don't mind. And it was communicated to them, not only by David Icke, but by me. Come on the programme, because I interviewed Garish about 3 years ago. And he lost, he spat his dummy out because I played the devil's advocate, which presenters should do. I challenged him about some of the things that he was saying about Jimmy Savile, which I actually believed, but I wanted to wind Garish up to see how he'd take it. Of course, he didn't take it very well. And he went whining to David, and of course David basically told him to fuck off, you know, grow up here, either go on and argue with Richie Allen or just ignore him. Best thing to do with me is ignore me. Now, that's what they do. They don't want to face you publicly over any of this stuff. But I want to ask you, Danny. I believe that ritual satanic abuse is real. I really do. I don't believe it because I want to believe it. I don't believe it because I'm taken to flights of fancy and that I'm easily laid. When I first began interviewing people like David Icke many years ago, my early interviews with him, which are still available, were very antagonistic. I was very hostile with him when I was working in commercial radio, saying, I don't believe this is all nonsense. I believe it does go on. And I believe very powerful.
I can't find evidence. I can't find anything of it, Richie. Sadly,
you don't believe it.
I'm not proud, but I've looked for it and I couldn't find it. I could not find any I can find ritual abuse and I can find loads of abuse. Obviously, abuse everywhere in every single section, every single department. It's around, but I cannot find satanic. I don't find any devil worshipping, baby killing, whatever. I don't find any of that anywhere.
So you don't buy it, basically.
I don't believe the SRA, no, not one bit. I don't believe, because I've not found any evidence of it. And that's the only reason I don't believe it. I've not found evidence of it.
That's one of the reasons I'm glad you came on, because I've obviously spoken with people before who are very committed to trying to expose it. And, you know, in my position, it's difficult. There's only so many ways you can say, well, you know, show me some proof. I'm glad and I'm going to shut up and get out of your way now in a second. You can elaborate on why you don't buy into it. All I'm going to say is, very skeptical early on, I was. But then I began to hear, not from one or two or three or four, but many different people from around the world, but also certified psychotherapists. And I could name, if I was to go into my email, I could name half a dozen or more of them. And the people coming to them with various problems, with emotional problems, with addiction problems, were often describing the very same or very, very similar things, Danny. And I began to think, wow, you know, is this going on? Now, look, I'm predisposed. I've got to put my hands up and say that I am predisposed to many of the, or some of the theories that I learned or discovered through people like David Icke and Jordan Maxwell and others. I'm going to put my hands up and say I'm very open-minded to that sort of thing anyway. But there were so many people speaking to so many different, not alternative practitioners or shysters, but genuine psychotherapists and psychiatrists, that I couldn't any longer say that these were unconnected or that this was some sort of hoax. That's why I believe it's real. And I believe the people I've interviewed.
Richie, everyone's allowed to believe anything they like. If you believe that, that's fine, but you're not going to make up a story and start pushing something that you can't get evidence for.
No, I'm never going to do that. No, not in a million years. Absolutely not, no.
But you know as well as I do, other people are doing that as today, you know. They're pushing this stuff that they haven't got no evidence for whatsoever.
What if I made an argument? What if I made, and you can absolutely smash this away out of the park if you want. What if I made an argument? Now, I'm not saying this about the UK column. Amateurish and unprofessional as this idiot Garish might be, and maybe I shouldn't call him an idiot, I don't believe that he's fundamentally dishonest. Well, hang on a second now. He's grossly exaggerated and has put out disinformation about Melanie Shaw. which is contradicting what I just said. So let me just say that again. Let me be clear. They've lied about Melanie Shaw's secret course and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt they have. Here's where I'm going to give Gerish a tiny bit of a pass. I believe that Gerish absolutely believes that this stuff is genuine. And when you believe it so implicitly, when you believe it to your bone marrow, for some people, again, for non-journalists, they will fit stuff around their central theory. They will to support what it is they want to believe. And that's what I think he's done with Melanie. So he's not evil.
It's confirmation bias. That's what it is. It's confirmation bias.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Bias. You know, again, I'm not trying to dig him out, but I believe that he fundamentally believes it, but does no credit to it by, you know, exaggerating or allowing information to get out there that he knows not to be true. Namely, again, that Melanie is locked up for reasons of, you know, whatever. So
the fact that he knows it's not true and still peddles it, if you like, on his show is the bad thing about it. That's the sickening thing about it. Knowing it's not true, but still peddling it and still telling your audience that it is true. And why are you doing that? What is your end game? I don't get that. Is that just for clicks? Is it just to keep the audience, subscribers? I don't understand. To me, it's only money. I can't see any other reason to do it apart from money.
Well, he's not going to tell us, is he? Well, he's certainly not going to tell me.
No. He won't speak to me. He won't speak to me at all.
And your approach to him has been professional, has it? It's been
yes,
open.
yeah. I mean, the first few months, you know, it was please, can we have a chat? Can we contact each other? What do you think about this? ? Very polite. But towards the end, you know, the last few weeks, I've just got no time for him. Now he'll put a tweet on, I'll just answer it back with a complete opposite to what he's saying, because I know 99% of the time what he's saying. I mean, I can go through lots of hoaxes, which I will in a bit, and tell you what he's pushed, and which is lies, basically.
Yeah, I know.
We can start with.
Yeah, but just before you, because I know you're going to talk about Holly, Greg. Sean McDonald, hi Sean. Bob tweets that he doesn't buy satanic ritual abuse himself as a theory. I left you a little bit off the hook there because you said that you haven't seen any evidence. I should have said to
I've not seen any.
No, and I believe you haven't. Where have you looked though? No, that's not a loaded question. I ask you that because,
to be honest with you, newspapers and internet is only two places I've actually looked for SRA. I've not looked for it. I've not phoned social services up. I've not phoned them sort of departments up to ask them.
It's just because
I've only looked really deep Google searching and paper, basically newspapers. You know, back to 1991. I even looked up the Blue House in America. I've only heard that story or not before. You know, and that was another one that was very similar to the Hampstead case. And it's like, it's just all rubbish, basically. So something's made up and it's been pushed along. And before you know it, it's took reins and gathered an audience. And before you know it, it's gone mental. And it's when you get to the nuts and cranny and back to the root cause, it was a lie. It's as simple as that. It was a lie.
You know who you're talking to, and you know that our listeners will be saying, "Jesus, I can't believe Danny went through the mainstream media." There are a lot of people who have given testimony about the things that happened to them. I've interviewed some of them, and I find them very believable. Now, I've got to say this, Danny, and I said this to you today off air. But by saying I believe them, it's very important that for people who are listening to this for the first time, and I think some of your friends are probably listening to me for the first time, it's very important when I say, when I believe somebody, what I actually mean is, I believe that they believe what it is they are saying. I can't endorse anything that's... When Fiona Barnett came on this programme, when others came on this programme, and I liked them, I believed that they were telling me the truth as they understood it. What I can't...
That they thought it was true, yeah.
That's right. What I can't do is say, they're absolutely telling the truth. This is spot on. I can't do that because I didn't witness what they witnessed. I never experienced it. That's where I'm coming from. That's what the bloody programme is supposed to be about. Let people speak and let the audience make their own mind up. But some of our listeners will say, going through the mainstream media, if satanic ritual abuse is real, well, obviously the mainstream media is not going to ever cover any of it. You know, that's
they don't print it.
They won't talk about it.
No, you think the mainstream media, if it was going on, you think they'd be all over that, wouldn't you?
Why, Danny? Why would they be? If it was connected,
what a story! What a story!
Of course, but
every day.
Yeah, but if we know the media is controlled by 6 corporations, that's not a joke. We know this to be true, right? And if it is, we also know that Jeffrey Epstein, we know that Bill Clinton. Talk to you today about Hillary Clinton, ironically. We know we know that a lot of very, very powerful people, we know that they've either molested children, or they have had very close relationships with people who have molested children. Put the media into the hands of 6 corporations. Of course, it's very easy, I would say. And I'm not having a go at you now. You can have a go back if you want. But you come across to me as very bright. Is it not a little bit naive to think that the media would publish it?
No, I personally think they can't publish it because the word's satanic. If they took the word satanic out of it, they can publish it all because it's true. Then it'll be. I can believe there's rituals. I can believe there's loads of groups and pedo rings and grooming gangs and all that sort of stuff. But I can't see no devil worshipping going on, which is what the satanic bit means. And if they take the satanic bit out of it, fine. I've got no problem with that. I can see it. I can show you evidence of it. But it's the satanic bit I can't find. They're all devils. And you'll find most of the SRA people are very religious. You'll find that they believe in God. I'm an atheist, so I don't really believe in anything like that at all. But you'll find they believe in God and they're very, very Christian or evangelical or whatever you want to call it that way. They're very, very believe in God. And if you believe in God, there has to be a devil. So therefore, the satanic to them is anyone's abusing. It's just it's devil worshipping. Well, you got to make out your mind. To me, a satanic ritual abuse is where there's a group of people that worship the devil and want to abuse this victim for the devils to support the devil. They don't do it for their benefit. They're doing it for the devil. That's satanic.
And you don't. That's a red line for you, Danny. That's a red line.
That's the word satanic's the red line for me.
But you know what? Aren't we
going on?
Aren't we surrounded by satanic imagery and satanic symbology? We are, Danny, aren't we? It's everywhere.
If you believe in God, you are. If you believe in God, then you are surrounded by devil stuff.
Well, I'm like you. Funny, ironically, I'm like you. I don't believe in the Christian God that I was encouraged to believe growing up. So, like you, I don't buy into that. But I do believe in. I mean, I'm surrounded by it in Manchester. I'm surrounded by Illuminati and satanic symbology, and I didn't notice any of it till I read books by Jim Mars and others. Again, I was very like yourself. I would have been very skeptical. And now I see I'm surrounded by it. Baphomet imagery all over Manchester. There's got to be a reason for that. You know, people don't build buildings and put these statues of and effigies of these demons. Why would they? It's everywhere. It's just me. We could get segued now. I don't want to get segued.
That's fair enough. You see stuff around and you query it, which is good. But I don't see no devil worshipping around anywhere, and I've looked for it. You know, I've actually looked for it, and I can't find it. Yes, I can see little satanic, or what they call it, number 33, and all these things, the owl, and all that sort of stuff. I see all that around, and it's pointed out. But I don't see no devil worshipping satanic groups killing babies or abusing children or whatever they're supposed to get up to. I don't see it anywhere, and no one's reported on it. The only people who report on it is people I found out to be lying, basically. So it makes me think, well, the whole lot's a hoax and a whole lie, isn't it? Until someone gives me evidence that isn't. I'd love you to send me some links that I can go and look at where it show me some satanic stuff. You know? And
I can't, of course. You know I can't. I'll be honest enough to say that all I could do is say, look, here's a link to a couple of interviews that I did, and this is why I find these people very credible. I'm going to remind our listeners again, we're going to talk a little bit about Holly Greig. Danny's on the programme for 2 reasons. One, because the programme is open to everybody, and I saw Danny's YouTube video. He's not on because I want to have a go. I couldn't care less about UKCOLUMN or any of these other wannabe journalists that do let them do whatever they want, and they have absolutely every right to say whatever they want to say and broadcast it. But when you put stuff in the public domain, every now and then somebody's going to criticise it. Either live with that, develop some thick skin, or go and piss off. And if you want to... Go ahead.
It's like they have every single right to publish what they want, sort of thing. I've got to disagree with that, because when it starts coming down to families getting involved and kids getting involved, so we'll take Holly Greig for example. Holly Greig, I presume all your audience knows the story to that. Most of my audience knows the story to Holly Greig. The bottom line is, it's turned out that I can't see any truth in it. All I see is a hoax. That's all I see. I see fallings out with a mom, is it Anne, I think her name is, and she fell out with a lot of people. As soon as she fell out with someone, she added that name to the list as well. It was so blatant and obvious that it was not true. But you've got these sheriffs and these social workers and these policemen and these families that Holly, well, more that Anne, should I say, name, not much about Holly, but she'd named all these people, and these people got harassed for years and months, and they were innocent, completely innocent. So it's like when you say you can spout off what you want on air, to a limit you can, but when people are involved and they're going to get hurt and attacked, and then you've crossed the line. Then other people are going to get affected by this. So that's when I think then the UKCOLUMN and the like stuff shouldn't have spread any of that, because it's false, and you're going to put other people and other children at risk.
I never saw any. I have to say this. I haven't seen any programs about the Holly Gregg story by any other media outlet. I've never. So whatever Gerish and his pals did about that, I never watched any of it. I interviewed Robert Greene, and I like Robert Greene. And again, I believe that Robert Greene believes passionately.
He believed it, didn't he? He
two
believed
things.
It. He must have, to go to the extent he did.
He absolutely believes it. And there are two things that Robert Greene says whenever Robert is challenged about the claims made by Holly. Whenever anybody says to Robert Greene, I've not spoken to Robert for ages, but whenever anybody says this was a hoax, Robert always comes out with a couple of things. The Grampian police themselves admitted that the investigation was absolutely shoddy and shabby, to say the very least, from the get-go. And that's what piqued his interest in it from the very beginning. And, you know, it was incompetence in terms of witness statements being taken, in terms of it being dismissed from the get-go. This is always a red flag for people like Robert Greene. How this was dismissed from the minute that Holly Gregg made these allegations. And that's when you get red flags, and that's when people start looking deeper and start asking questions. And I don't know, the jury's out for me. You know, I know you came on today, and I know some of your friends and fellow researchers, they wanted you to nail me to the wall over this particular case, and what do I think about it? I don't know is the answer. I completely respect your right to say that you think it's a hoax, that's why you're here, and you have every right to, and it's a good bit of balance for the programme. But looking back at that case, I don't know, jury's still out for me, and I think Robert Greene is honest, and I think he sacrificed an awful lot to try and get to the truth there. Back to you, Danny.
Well, it'd be good if you could set up an interview with Robert Greene and myself, because I've got plenty of questions that I think would trip him up. It would trip him up completely. I mean, you just said then the investigation from the get-go was sort of not done properly. Well, let's take an example. Was a case like this ever done before in the past? Not really. So was the police experience handling this? Not really. So hopefully they learned from it, you know, apart from that. But it's hard to give a department a problem that they've never, ever come across before and then slate them for how they handled it.
But they did say,
you know what I mean?
Didn't they say, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I am right this time. Now, I've been very fair now. I knew you were working and you were coming on late. What I could have done was beavered away for a couple of hours and gotten out loads and loads of different reports to try and trip you up, but I didn't do that because I'm not dishonest. I'm going on memory now, on memory only. But if I remember, Grampian police from the very outset said that Holly was a truthful witness and acknowledged that they believed that she had been abused, and then changed their approach. And that again is one of the reasons why Robert Greene said, well, hang on a second, go ahead.
Do you not think they changed their approach because maybe one day into the investigation they realised it was absolute bullshit?
That's possible, isn't it? How can I say no to you there? I'd be an idiot if I said no.
That's my theory. Yeah, that's my theory. The policeman's investigated it. Comes to the first, if you like, accused or whatever, and investigated whatever they've said and realised that is rubbish. I mean, they've said that much stuff that there was people not even born by then. You know, the stuff that's come out of Holly Gregg's mouth and Anna's mouth is, towards the end of it, has been absolute rubbish because they were getting nowhere. And they're naming people left, right, and centre, and just picking. It seems like they're picking names out of a hat towards the end, you know. And it's like you're losing your credibility completely, and your story's gone up shit creek basically. So you're pulling all sorts of names out of the hat now. You've got no evidence whatsoever. They investigated so many people. If there's 10 people accused and you investigate the first 2 or 3, and you realise that they're all innocent, you're not going to waste your time investigating every single one. You're just not. It's a waste of police time. Once you come to the conclusion that it was a hoax or that she's telling lies or there's something not right about it, the investigation stops. That's common sense, really. You can't keep investigating something. It's like trying to find something that's not there.
There's a very interesting dynamic between you and I think. Here's the dynamic as I see it. With the absolute utmost respect for you, by the way. There's no but either, I mean it. I respect your right to come on and your right to say what it is you've said. The interesting dynamic is I'm inclined, maybe, it could be argued, if I'm going to be honest, it could be argued that I'm inclined to have a little bit more sympathy with the person who is claiming the abuse and with some of the investigators. You, it would appear, correct me if I'm wrong, have a little bit more sympathy with the authorities. And that's bound to get up the noses of my listeners, because they'll say, how could you trust the police? And do you know what they'll say, before I shut up and let you back in? Do you know what they'll say? They'll say, Danny, look, Leon Britton said he lost the Dickens dossier. How could that possibly happen? Dickens gave him a list of very high-profile names of men who were abusing children, and he lost it. Theresa May appointed 2 absolute ringers, Elizabeth Butler Sloss and Fiona Woolf, people whom she knew were connected with people whom were accused of abuse. Mike Veal of Wiltshire Police said, Operation Conifer, there is no doubt that if Edward Heath was alive today, we'd be interviewing him under caution, because the things that are being claimed that he did are real. Now, I absolutely believe that children, I believe, not because I want to believe it again, I believe that children were disappeared by the intelligence agencies of this country. Children whom were abused by Heath on Morning Cloud. I believe that. Now, whether it's true or not, people can say it isn't true. I believe it. Our listeners will say, how could you expect, why would you believe the Grampian police when they say, oh, we found out that this is rubbish and we found out that was rubbish? Why would you believe them?
Because you've got to put your trust in, you have to put your trust in the police and the judicial system. You have to. If you can't put your trust in them, in your laws in your own country, then we have got a big problem. You know, and I'd advise somebody, if you don't trust this country to be just to serve justice properly, I suggest you get your passport out and move and leave the country, because it's not the country for you. I trust this government. Yes, there's going to be bad policemen. Yes, there's going to be pedo policemen. Yes, there's going to be pedo parliamentarians. There's going to be paedophilia everywhere, and there's going to be abusers everywhere, in every department and in every street, if you like. We know that. But to sort of, because one man is a pedo, you can't say the other 10 men are pedos as well. You can't do that. If you do that, the country has gone to rat shit. You can't do that at all. You have to have faith in the justice system. It's some faith in the justice system, which I do. I still have faith in it. It still gives out proper justice in my eyes. You know, and Sabina McNeil, shall I say, she's, you know, in court at the moment for pushing a hoax. Bottom line, that's what we know so far. What the outcome is, we don't know. But
you and I spoke about this today. I think Sabine believed it. I really do.
She believed it totally. I think she totally, 100%. Yeah. She must have. And I'm not saying Robert Greene doesn't believe Holly Gregg. He must, for what he's done and put his neck out there on the line, he must have 100% believed it. You know,
Danny, how can you say? Let me. I'm going to jump all over this. We can continue this. We're going to run out of time in about 5 or 6 minutes, and we can continue it again after Christmas anyway. I'll be happy to get back into this with you. How can you possibly say, with the amount of cover-ups we've had in this country, with Hillsborough, Jesus Christ, Danny, with weapons of mass destruction that have seen 3 million Iraqis murdered or displaced, 96 people murdered at Hillsborough, murdered by the police, and the cover-up for years. How can you possibly say that you put your faith in the police to uncover what I believe is a network of paedophilia in this country? Go ahead.
Because for every wrongdoing they've done, they probably did about, I'm speculating, they probably did 100 to 200 good doings. You know, yes, they do wrongdoings. Yes, Hillsborough was a disaster. You know, and they do try and cover their arses. Police do. It's natural. They're in the same group. They're in the same team, and you'll find that happens all over the country in every single department. But what I'm trying to get at is you can't tarnish the whole force and the whole system just because there was one mistake or 2 mistakes. You can't do that. If you do that, then you might as well, you've got no law in the land then, have you? You've got nothing.
I can't argue with that, except there is a big but. The but is, you couldn't expect them. I mean, one of the things we did learn, and I don't think anybody can dispute this, is that a number of detectives have spoken to the UK's mainstream media after the Savile revelations. And detectives went public and said they were stopped following certain lines of inquiry because they went to the establishment. You talk about the establishment. We have the next in line to the throne in this country, who I've never and would never accuse of anything because it's immoral and it's libelous and it's wrong. But he was the avowed best friend of a record-breaking paedophile, Jimmy Savile. He was the self-confessed best friend of him. And yet, he's never been invited into Westminster Police Station for a cup of tea to say, Your Highness, listen, informally, we've got to have a chat with you because this guy was abusing boys, girls, people in old folks' homes. He was a necrophiliac. You spent a lot of time with him. We need to speak to you about things that he might have said, names he might have dropped. None of that has happened. There's got to be a massive cover-up going on, Danny. That's how I see it.
But what would happen if he turned around and said, yeah, you know what, I didn't even know.
I wouldn't believe it.
I didn't know about it.
Do you believe...
You wouldn't believe that, but that could be the truth, couldn't it? Because you just said, you know, you didn't know about Melanie Shaw, but at the time...
It might be the truth, but don't you have to have a little bit of incredulity? Imagine Prince Charles. Imagine he was on now for the laugh, and he was on, and he said, "Well, I'll tell you what, Danny and Richie, I didn't know anything." I would say to him, "Listen, with respect, I don't believe that MI5 would allow somebody as close to the royal family as they allowed Jimmy Savile." Without knowing what Savile was doing, they must have known. They must have known. Is my
You'd think so. Yeah, you'd think so. You know, 99% sure you think they've got to have known, haven't they? They've got to have known. That's what their job is, to know that sort of stuff. That's their job. So you would think they should know.
And why didn't they do anything about it?
Yeah, that's the question that need to be asked, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the question that need to be asked. You know, they're the people we should be actually asking these questions for. They're the MPs we should be going to and say, we need to lobby you in Parliament and find out what's going on here. Not going on chat shows and sort of spouting off stuff without evidence, you know, just because it's your hunch. It's a hunch, it's a presumption I've got, you know, and that's it. Like, I could have made a Melanie Shaw video and just said, this is what I think, and blah, 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 blah.
But do you know why UKCOLUMN and others, one of the reasons they do what they do, and again, I'm going to defend them here, it's because there's been a complete absence of any investigation by commercial media. There's been none. The commercial media reported on what Savile did. They knew what he was doing when he was alive. Jesus, Louis Theroux, didn't he, Danny? Louis Theroux spent time with him, and Theroux came back. He knew, right? But nobody said anything. So these, you know, independent television shows or radio shows, whatever they are, I'm going to stand up for them and say, they're all at sea, knowing that there's a very, very serious underbelly of ritual paedophilia going on in this country, and it goes all the way to the very top of the establishment. They know it's going on. Savile was a dead giveaway without all the rest of, without Peter Morrison, without Cyril Smith, without Leon Britton, without all that. They know it's going on, but nothing is being done about it. So in comes these alternative media organisations, whom I have to say, I'll criticise UKCOLUMN forever for lying about Melanie Shaw, but I believe, as bad as they were, I don't believe their motivation was evil, and I don't necessarily believe it was about money either. I think they're so committed to believing what they believe that they did what they did, and I'm not trying to backtrack here. I condemn them for putting out false information. It's rubbish. It's terrible practice, but I think, you know, there's a reason for it. Anyway, over to you again. Go ahead.
Do you not think UKCOLUMN purely has generated its income from its show?
Do you know, the truth is, apart from speaking to Gerrish 4 years ago, which wasn't a very good interview, I have had nothing to do with any of them. I'm as independent as it gets. I have nothing to do with anyone. It's just me. Yeah. And I sometimes fire a broadside. When I see bullshit, I'll fire a broadside. I'm happy to take it back, by the way. You know, it's what's good for the goose. I can take it. A very thick skin. I laugh at some of the stuff that's said about this programme, and rightly so. And if anybody wants to come on here and have a go at me, send me an email. I'll facilitate you coming on. No problem, 100%. Well,
I'd love you to come on our show, Richie. You come on our show, because
you can have a proper go at me then. You can have a proper go at me then.
No, wait, it's not such a proper go at you.
I'm only joking. I'm only joking.
Question, you know, and you can actually answer it honestly, you know, and go, yeah, this is what I want to say, and this is what my opinion. Because a lot of people want to hear your opinion. I know. So you just put out a platform. You don't really give opinions. You just sort of give people a platform, let them spout off what they want to spout off, and then you keep yourself sort of neutral. You don't really pick a side. I've noticed that, which is good for my eyes. You're a host. You're not there.
Yeah, you have to ask the devil's advocate questions when you can. I point out to many of my guests regularly, listen, there's no definitive proof. This is a theory. I often make that point. This is a theory. There's no proof. This is your opinion. There's no proof. That's the best I can do, you know. But doing it the way I do it, with obviously I don't have the time to go and research everything that's said by every guest. I'd love the time to do that. I love the money. I'd love to have the money. I'd love to be earning the sort of money that, you know, InfoWars and some of these
that Jonathan Ross is earning,
or like Jonathan Ross is earning, because then you could investigate stuff. I think our listeners have taken pretty. Not that it matters; it doesn't matter anyway. But I think they've taken fairly well to you. They're not.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not in it.
You don't care either. Yeah.
I'm not in it for. No, I'm not in it for subscribers. I'm not in it for clicks. I'm not monetizing my channel. I don't have no intention to. I never will do. I'm not in it for money. I'm in it because 15 years ago, I had a tinfoil hat on and I was down all these rabbit holes. And then I wish someone 15 years ago told me that look into that a different way, look into this a different way. Look, you think the Earth's flat, look into physics, go and look at physics. You think the moon landing's fake, okay, well go and look at this evidence. This will show you that it isn't actually fake. And when you look at these things, you're like, wow, how did I believe that? And I think, I know how I believed it because I watched people like UKCOLUMN. I watched people like Alex Jones. I watched people like your David Icke, your Richie Allen shows, your TPV shows. I watched all these things were all pushing the same sort of narrative. And I believed it. Why wouldn't I? You know, there was millions of people saying it's true. But when you find out something that you believe isn't actually true, and you believed it for like 10 years, you know, you think, wow, how much isn't actually true of what I actually believed? So that's what my website's all about, really, is just going down the list of what I mean, some of the things might end up being true. I mean, have you heard of Seven? Have you heard of that woman?
No, I haven't.
I presume you have. You've never heard of Seven, right? She came out with a claim 15 years ago or so that all her intellectual properties have been taken off her and been stolen. You know, Strictly Come Dancing, all these game shows are all hers. Okay, 15 years she's been peddling this rubbish, and because the accused wasn't in the country, the accused who she thinks stole the stuff off her was out of the country in America or whatever, doing his own life. But he's come back to the UK and realised all this is going on. And of course, he's got her by the nuts. He's stuck at a court. He's getting the police involved and all sorts. So all of a sudden, we found out that she was also a hoax as well. You know, yet for 10 years, she managed to, 10 or 15 years, she pushed this stuff, and they got a big following. She had major money sent to her, donations and clicks per views.
I didn't know
you
this.
Name
this
it.
is really interesting now. Danny, can I just say this? We're going to run out of time. My final word, and then I'm going to give you, you're going to get the absolute final word. I'm going to do 30 seconds, then you'll get 30 seconds. Okay. Look, I don't want to push anything. What I want to do is, to the best of my ability, is listen to people that have got something a bit different to say that, you know, that you don't get to hear through, as I said, commercial and national media. That's all it is. I don't have any personal agenda. Yes, I have personal opinions. I don't believe in politics. I'm not an anarchist, but I don't believe the answer to the problems we have is through voting at the ballot box. I don't believe any of that, and I talk about that. Other than that, I'm very open-minded. I'm happy to have people come on this programme that disagree with me and that want to take me on, because when we do it like that and we have a robust exchange, it's good for everybody. That's all I'm going to say. I have no axe to grind. I'm going to, before I give you the last 30 seconds, I'm going to mention your website again, hoaxpolice.wordpress.com. Over to you, final 30 seconds, and then we'll wrap it up for today. And thanks for coming on. I've enjoyed speaking with you today.
Well, first of all, I thank you for letting me on. To be honest with you, inviting me on there, I wasn't expecting it. It's been a nice smile from yesterday onwards. I want to get the message out there that I'm not attacking Melanie Shaw at all. It might look that way in some of the videos that I've done. I'm not attacking her per se. I'm attacking the people that was around her and believing they were helping her, and they weren't. They just made her 10 times worse. And in my eyes, they're waiting for her to come back out of prison again so they can jump all over her again. And I'd like to be there when she comes out and say, Melanie, come with me. I'll help you. If I have to do that myself, I'll help you. They won't. But bottom line is, I'm just trying to show people that there is another side to the story. Whether they believe that the other side is up to them as well. You know, it's only facts I'm pointing out here and facts you're pointing out there, and people have two sides of the story. You believe what you want to believe, but you've got to draw a line. When you start pushing something where it starts affecting families and kiddies and all that sort of stuff, you've got to think, hang on a minute, I've got to make sure this is damn true before I start pushing any of this. You know, flat Earth, it's innocent. It's innocent. It can be flat around. Who cares? But when you start going to Hampstead and Holly Gregg and these sort of things, it's like, hang on a minute. People are getting innocently ridiculed here and then bullied and, you know, stalked and all that sort of stuff. You've got to draw a line somewhere with this.
Listen, mate.
And that's my feeling on it all.
Good to have you on. Thanks for doing it. We'll pick this up again in the new year. No, seriously, it was good to have you on the programme. Glad I found you and found the video.
I'd love you to come on the show, mate. Come on the show. We won't beat you up. We won't ridicule you. We just got a question.
You can beat me up if you want. I'll be happy. It won't bother me. As I said, I got thick enough skin. Danny, thanks. Look after yourself. Thanks for coming on. Mate. Cheers, mate. Bye for now. Right, so that was Danny Jones then. Thanks to Danny for coming on. Enjoyed listening to him. Also enjoyed speaking with Dana Martin earlier on. I was going to wrap it up, but I did say that the final word was Danny, so I'm going to say no more about it. Other than, you have a fantastic weekend. That's it for the week. Thursday's programme draws to a close. I'll speak to you on Sunday morning for Sunday View on the usual platforms. Bye for now. Bye now.